Today's project is going to be the removal and repair of the console here on this 300K. In order to get the console out, the seats have to come out because you have to access mounting bolts that are hidden under the carpet on the console. One of the reasons this console has to come out is because the park position is not solid. See how easy I can get that out? There's a gate that runs along in here. I'll show you a picture of it. And the gate that holds the park has worn, if you consider how many millions of times this thing's been shifted. But anyway, you can see, I don't think that's a very safe condition because it just doesn't stay in park like you should. With the console carpet pried away, you expose the Phillips head screws that you see here and here. There's two on each side. You don't have to take the carpet completely off, but you have to get it far enough exposed that you can get at those screws. And of course there'll be one set on each side. The rear screw doesn't have to go completely out because it's got a notch here, but the front screw does have to come completely out. There is one more nut and bolt that secures the console, and that's up in the nose here. It's a 7/16 bolt that comes off of the radio knob, radio support, believe it or not. And I'll show you that here in a separate picture. But that has to be loosened or removed, and then the console will be free to chuck back and forth. I was showing you how the other shift lever doesn't like to stay in park. Well, here's one that has a good gate and does stay in park well. See? That's a good solid part. That's what I'm going to swap in. So, the removal of the shift lever mechanism isn't very well covered in the manual. And when I first got into this, I flipped the unit over. And in this section here, I found nice big half-inch nuts, and I figured that was how you removed it. Well, the nuts wouldn't bulge, almost like they were welded. And guess what? They were welded. That's not how you take it apart. So, I asked Chris, K-Maniac, and he walked me through it. The removal is from the top. We're going to take off the two screws that hold these trim pieces on, and that will start to expose the pieces. So the trim pieces have got one screw here, and then two what do you want to call those? Kind of like the interior fastener spring clips that easily pry up, and then this piece is off. Same thing for the other side. The shift knob comes off with a 7/32 Allen screw in front. Aluminum pipe, pull it off on the top, and that exposes the screws that you need to release the shifter mechanism. The 4 screws removed, the shifter drops down. Disconnect your reverse switch wires, and here you have your mechanism. There. See that? That's that gate I was talking about that makes the park grip so well. That's completely worn off on the other one. So, with all the nuts loose, you're able to chuck the console back a little bit, which will expose the wires up in there, and through the ashtray you can now get to the transmission cable and the park cable. They have little clips that have to be removed, and then the console can continue. And now we have the black console out. We'll be doing the same dismantle to get the shift lever off. And here is the shift mechanism from the black console. And perhaps you can see that the park gate it's gone. It's just worn away. And that's why it just doesn't have anything to grip to when it gets to park. Reassembly is straightforward and pretty quick. Don't install the ashtray because you're still going to need to put the console in the car, and that's going to require getting a hold of the transmission cables, and access is done through the ashtray. So here we have the console loosely installed. I have connected the park and the transmission cable. That can be a little bit of a wrestle. You want to connect the park cable first, just because of access, and the transmission cable follows. Both are held on with little clips that are similar to carburetor type clips. And access is a little tough. On the park cable, it's easier to work with the console tilted up on its side and sticking your hand up underneath. The transmission cable, pretty good access when you come down through the ashtray. Of course, you don't want any of your side bolts or that nose bolt in, because you want this thing as flexible as you can get it, so you can get those cables into position. Once they're into position, you hook up your wires, your side bolts, your nose nut, and you're pretty well done. And as you would expect, we've got a nice solid park lever. So that much worked out right. Now let's just see if I can get the console lights to work.